Good morning, everybody. I'm Megan,
Hi, I'm Ella.
and we're here in the Ultimate Writing Group. All writers, welcome. We hope it's the Ultimate Group. We hope it's the last group you ever have to join.
Last group you'll ever need.
And this morning, we're going to talk about productivity and positivity and why those two are so linked, why they really go together. Okay, but Ella, I want to just share something with you because, Facebook says, this is your post from a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever it is. And I love the post that came through for me this morning. And it was about writing. So I wanted to just share it.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is what I wrote. This is what I was thinking about a year ago today. Do you know the expression, the first pancake is for the cat? It means the pan's never quite the right temperature when you put on that spoonful of batter. So you can expect it to get undercooked and it's going to be messy and goopy and it probably won't be appetizing for humans. I've never tried feeding a pancake of any kind to a cat, and I have my doubts that a kitty would appreciate it. But I totally relate to this phenomenon, and I don't get upset by the outcome of my first pancake. It turns out that writing is like making pancakes. So grateful to past me for starting early and getting out the cat draft so that now I can work on the light, fluffy, golden brown one. And it just tickled me to read that I loved that I captured that moment, but it tickled me to read that I went in, like I had the expectation that the rough draft would just be like an undercooked pancake, which is, in my opinion, one of the most disappointing things ever. I love pancakes, and when the pancake is not crispy brown, when it's gooey and it's not quite cooked, like you want to feel sad, but if you know that's just the first iteration that has to come out before you can get to the good stuff, then it's like, oh, great, awesome, I got the cat pancake. Must be time for the really good pancakes. And so I just had to share that. It tickled me because I loved thinking of a rough draft as the icky part you expect that's the sign of the really awesome thing to come.
Yeah. 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 I love thinking of, and this is not exactly the same, but I love thinking of of being like, I'm a real writer. Like, I love having like these things of like real writers because, and people are like, oh, you don't have real writers have icky first drafts. Like that's like people think, oh, real, like you have this idealized thing, which we talked about a little bit, but you have this idealized image of what writing and authors, a real author or real writer's life or writing must be like. Yeah. I think real writers, like everybody can be like, icky first draft. That's the sign.
You made it.
That's the sign.
Oh, we should develop a series of badges, right? Like, for Girl Scouts that you put on your stash and it's like, you achieved the really icky rough draft badge. Like, this rough draft is amazingly rough. Yeah.
Except it would be called cat pancake.
Cat pancake! And it would look like a cat pancake. Oh my goodness. We have to make sashes. We have to make badges. I think that's exactly right. And I think what you brought up actually takes us back to what we had, thought we chat about today, which is the productivity and positivity, because you talked about what real writers do. And I absolutely agree, real writers write rough drafts. And I think there's a misconception that real writers are also miserable, moody, unable to tame their muse, somehow at the mercy of it, and basically just sit and drink whiskey until a whole story comes through them in one go.
Chain smoking.
Right.
in the dark, at a desk, lonely and like, rah!
Why do we think that? Why do we think that art is so inextricably linked to misery? I mean, I'm not asking why we think artists experience pain, because I think it's clear that people who make art are very sensitive and they experience emotions intensely, and I'm so grateful for that, right? Because then we get the benefit of what they process. But why do we equate art and misery, and how much of a disservice are we doing For anybody out there who's writing, going, I'll never be a good writer. I'm just not an alcoholic. You know, stop. You can't be a good writer.
Yeah.
Last fall, I saw the essayist David Sedaris live, and he's one of my favorite writers, and if I were going to stalk somebody, I would stalk David Sedaris. I just think he's fantastic. And there was a Q&A period following his readings, and I asked how long he spends writing. And he thought about it, and he said, probably, 3 to 4 hours a day. And if you're comparing, I'm going to go to my job and work for 8 hours versus, I'm a writer and I work 3 to 4 hours a day, you might think, oh boy, you're getting off really easy. But if you imagine sitting down at your computer, or in his case, a typewriter, or at your journal, whatever is the place where you write, and writing actively 3 to 4 hours, that is so intense. And I was really, it made perfect sense. I wasn't surprised. I was really impressed. But it also put me in mind of that idea of the miserable writer. Now, David Sedaris writes about a lot of dark stuff. His essays are about his family and how dysfunctional it was growing up, and how challenging it was for him. But he's not living that. He's not living that model of the miserable writer who can only write when the misery overtakes him. Right? He's got a regular daily practice. He sits and he puts in his time. So to me, that's the contrast. Like so I feel like if we could help people see more what it takes to be able to sit down for those 3 to 4 hours without relying on, I'll just get that hit of inspiration or that hit of misery. That I feel like that's where the positivity and the productivity comes in. Do you have something that gets your writing mojo going? Do you have a way of starting writing when you write?
In creativity in general, I set date. I give myself deadlines.
Yeah.
I give myself deadlines, preferably with other people, to keep me accountable.
Sure, an external.
For my creativity and stuff. Yeah, I do. I have some friends that, I live in the middle of nowhere. So, you live
in the middle of beautiful free writing prompts of snow.
Yes. It snowed on Saturday here. Anyways, wow. What I do, I like to keep myself accountable. That's what I do. What we're talking about is making me think about The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Yeah. Because I think writing and creativity is a practice, right? It's a practice. And this isn't as much about positivity as it is just about the practice and commitment of being a professional. If you're, being a writer, you get sit down regularly every day, and that's what you're making me think of with this David Sedaris. How he's not like, when the inspiration hits me,
right?
He's like, I'm gonna be there
when I have just had a terrible day. That will put me in the right frame of mind, because I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, but that's to me where the link comes in.
Okay.
Because what you sit down to do on a regular basis, whether it's every day or it's every Saturday, whatever is the agreement you've made with yourself, that's the professional part. And I love the way Stephen Pressfield differentiates between being an amateur and a professional, not as whether we're making money, but as how we treat the task, whether we're showing up to give it our best, and we're intending for it to be successful. But why would we want to show up every day or every Saturday or whatever it is to something that makes us miserable? this is where we can bring in the
There you go.
positivity. Because I remember when I used to teach school, I was a classroom teacher, and it's early hours, so it's just hard, and I would think about how I would always be dreading showing up in the morning, because you just kind of think of all the work there is to do, and I would just I got in the bad habit of seeing my whole day as this unfolding as this burden, right? All these things I would have to do and who would need what for me. And I thought about that, and I imagined my kids, and I thought, oh my gosh, if they're showing up with that same feeling, we're just in for a world of pain here, right? We're all just showing up expecting to be miserable. I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I intentionally started trying to change in my brain how I was showing up. And, I'm sure that had an effect on how much my kids enjoyed being in class, because I wanted to be there and enjoy myself. I wanted to go, oh, this is what we get to do today, instead of, oh my goodness, by the end of the day, I have to make it through these lessons and grade those papers. So if we create the expectation of enjoyment,
right,
won't it be easier to show up to do the thing? If we're taking it seriously, if we're taking our writing craft seriously, we might still show up. But why would we want to make it a fight to show up?
Yeah, I feel like the same thing about exercise.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Like, why do I want to do this thing that makes me so miserable? And so I searched and searched and searched until I found an exercise that I enjoy. Or when I start exercising, just like with creativity, where it's a practice it's like a muscle that you have to work. I found a way that feels good. Like, I'm like, oh, this, I don't push myself so hard that I don't like it, or I trick my mind into starting. And then I'm like, oh, once you get going, you like it. But I do agree with you with, I think that I was thinking this morning, because we were thinking about this topic. I was like, how much easier is it to like stick to a diet or something when you're feeling good, right? Like when you're in a good mood and you're like, okay, or stick to a diet. I'm not saying I'm just saying this is an analogy.
Habit. Yeah.
Like, let's say you're like, okay, I want to lose those last 5 pounds, and you have a choice in a moment to eat like a piece of chocolate or a piece of fruit. Okay, let's say. And when you're feeling good, it's so much easier when you're like, yeah, I'm feeling great. It's so much easier to make the choice to eat the piece of fruit and when you're feeling crappy, or you're just like, oh, and you're not feeling good, you eat the chocolate, And so I think when you're working with creativity and you have these moments of, okay, I'm going to sit down and write. And when you're feeling good, it's easier to sit down and be like, let's do this, than when you're feeling bad. It's then you're like, oh, I don't want to. I just want to sit and watch TV or something.
I totally connect that feeling with like faith in a brighter future, which, I mean, it sounds like so cheesy, but with whether it's the food choices or whether to sit down and write versus sit down and watch TV. For me, it comes across as like a faith in the me of the future having something good. Like, do I believe in and also vote for me of the future getting something awesome?
Yeah.
Right. And in a negative space, I'm like, I don't care if you get something awesome, you of the future, right? Like, you can eat the cat pancake. Nobody cares what you get.
Right.
But in a positive frame of mind, I want good things for my future self. Mm-hmm. And that means I want to get that draft going, and I believe that I can do it. And then this takes me back to my initial thought about the what we're talking about with the rough draft. Writing takes an incredible amount of faith, because what you're doing slowly over time doesn't look anything like the finished piece. And for anybody who's worked on a full-length novel, for anybody who's worked on something from start to finish and had to go through that painful process of building it a little bit at a time, and what you're building, what you're working on right in that moment doesn't at all look like the thing you imagined, right? And it's like pancakes here and there and batter and goop, and you have to work it and shape it. There's so much faith involved in that. You have to believe so strongly in the possibility of a finished piece of writing. And I see a huge conflict between faith and negativity. I mean, I think maybe that's what it means to be negative, is like not to believe that something better will come. Right? Like that, isn't that what we call pessimism? That things aren't going to come for us or for anybody.
Oh my gosh. Brilliant.
Yeah. So, like, if you want to embark on the journey of writing, you have to have faith. It's simply a prerequisite in the same way you need to know words. I mean, and faith doesn't have to be of a particular kind. I'm not talking about a spiritual faith. I'm talking about believing in something you can't see. Because as you're sitting and drafting, boy, it gets messy. And you end up taking apart what you've already built. Can you, if you think back to when you were writing Free to Be You?
Yeah.
Do you can you think of a moment when either you're like, I just don't know, this might all just go to chaos, or a moment when you were positive that things were gonna work out?
Well, I was pretty fortunate because I had you. I'm like, Megan.
But it's a very personal process, and I mean, even just reaching out to say I'm stuck takes faith, because some people don't ever get to that point. Some people get stuck and they go, it's overwhelming, and I don't know what to do about it, and nobody can help me.
Probably why I like writers so much, though, is because they like, gosh, they have to just keep going, and they have to be like, I'm going to create this world for people, or I'm going to create this experience for people, and with that faith, just keep doing it. Like, I'm just going to do this. I'm sitting at home by myself. It's a little bit lonely because I don't talk to very many people, and I'm creating this, and they just create these worlds that change people's lives, or they share these experiences, share their stories in a way that touches people. Oh my gosh. And the faith that it takes to do that, I'm sure that's why I'm like, I love authors. I
really connect with. But that is so much optimism.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because, you could write about any subject matter. Mm-hmm. I mean, Stephen King, who's famously so dark, it has got to be a huge optimist, in my opinion. To write that many books, come up with that many characters, to implant himself in that many stories, you, by definition, think something good will happen. Or maybe maybe I can't say this about all writers. So he was the first prolific author who popped into mind. But even if you're just open to what's coming, maybe you don't have an expectation that it will be great. Maybe you write without expectation, but you're open to the possibility of whatever will come. That's so powerfully freeing, right? It's the ultimate letting go of the expectation. And so for me, there's something about positivity and possibility. You're reading The Art of Possibility right now, huh?
Yes. Yes, I really like it. It's one of those books for me where I went, oh, all of these things that I kind of half knew, you're putting into words, and of course, everything you read, it's like, of course, but it's not, of course, in the sense that I knew that and it's obvious. It's like, oh, yes, from the deepest part of me, I know that's true, but I didn't know it a minute ago. But embracing possibility,
to me is a part of positivity. Do you think that's true? That like just being open without expectation is
Yes. I think there's a lot of push to be realistic in our world. I think there's a big push to be realistic and realistic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we put some air quotes around that? Because
Yes, realistic. Because I don't know exactly why, but I definitely think it's there. That and I think writers and people who are using their imaginations and having that possibility of who are living in a space of possibility, you can't be realistic. And realistic, again, realistic. I think realistic is, people say realistic was really, you have to be aware of the worst possible outcome that might happen. And I think there's just as much possibility as the most awesome outcome. Like, we're in the moment of now and the future is unknown. So there's just as much likelihood as an awesome outcome as there is a totally awful outcome, right?
But we really have been trained to equate realism with negative possibility, and this is different from, if I drive, I should have a spare tire. That's realistic. If I drive around, I want to have a spare tire, right? Yeah. But the way in which we're encouraged to be realists is get a different job that pays more. That's realism, right? Don't try to be an artist. Don't try to be a writer. How will you make a living? That's realism. And telling people that there are kind of these two realms. There's the creative realm, where only a lucky few, if you're not going to be a Hollywood actor or a Broadway dancer, don't even try. And then there's this real world where the rest of us live, and we have to just suck it up and make the best of it.
Dude, I wanted to write for basically my whole life, but I never, it was like, oh, you should be a teacher, or you should be a thing, it'd be something that you can fall back on. Yeah. And nobody ever encouraged me. Like, after I graduated from college, I was like, why didn't I take a creative writing class? Like, it did not even enter my mind to take a creative writing class in college. And afterwards I was like, I could have just taken one. I could have just taken one. But and so yes, I do think but also, there are so many, being realistic and not being creative, no, there are so many opportunities to for people who have chosen writing as their path. There's so many, especially now where you've got Amazon and ebooks. Oh my gosh, people are making bank just writing, doing what they love.
Right, and writing books they've always wanted to write.
Yes, and just marketing it, and using special the tools that they need to market it. You could absolutely. I feel like we were so fortunate, because I remember 10 years ago I was kind of watching. I'm like, oh my gosh, ebooks are really happening, and now it's a thing. It's so easy to buy a book on your phone.
And I think that you and I still might have a different sense of that, because we spend a lot of time with writers, and we spend a lot of time in groups where people are actively writing. Because I imagine there are still people who think, well, sure, the ebooks, shmebooks, or there's still a certain amount of resistance, and the traditional publishing world, of course, still has clout, right? So I think there are still people who would say, oh, that's not really being a writer. And you and I spend a lot of time around writers, and that's hugely important. The people you choose to surround yourself with and what they believe is possible for themselves and for you, and in general in the world, is huge. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we love having the people in this group share what they're doing, and we want there to be the encouragement. But, go out and meet other writers in the world and talk to them. Surround yourself with people who say, oh, yeah, creativity is a normal thing to be doing, and we should all do it. We should all engage with it.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of creating the positivity sphere that allows us to operate. And it's interesting. I felt that really palpably in a slightly different area where I live. There are a ton of small business owners. There are a ton of entrepreneurs. Totally surprised me. I didn't realize that about this area. Mm-hmm. But when I go out and I meet people and I say, I have my own business and I'm a writing coach, they go, oh, that's cool. I have my own business. I'm a, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that norm, feeling like when I walk around, everybody is doing something interesting, something they're passionate about, something that is based on like a really strong idea about what the world needs.
Mm-hmm.
That's become normal. So, for writers, so important to talk to people who think writing is normal.
Yeah.
make a concerted effort to spend time with people who are like, oh, writing, yeah, cool, I write too, or what kind of art do you create, or what?
Yeah.
That's I think like the baseline of positivity is surrounding ourselves with those people.
It makes it so much easier because then you don't have to fight against your own. You don't have to. It makes it so much easier to spend time with people who, for writing, is normal or creativity is normal.
Yeah.
Because then when you sit down, you're not fighting. You're not like, okay, I'm sitting down in spite of societal expectations.
Yeah, that's a big.
Plus my own, because it's already difficult to like reach into your heart and be like, I'm gonna put this on the page. Like it's already difficult, and then when you sit down and you're like, you have like your mom's voice or whoever's voice, or like, you can't be a writer. There's
that seventh grade teacher who said you'll never learn how to use a comma.
Right. Right, or whatever. It's so difficult already, but if you can, but if you, like you said, surround yourself with other writers for who are already or also like, oh yeah, I just wrote 1,000 words yesterday, and now I'm gonna, I'm doing, my goal is to do 5,000 words this week. I mean, yeah, that's or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, me too. Me too. Oh yeah, all of us.
Or
it's
wow,
awesome.
that's way more than I'm working on, but now I'm really inspired. I have something to look ahead to. Yeah. And of course, I mean, what that could invite and what you want to really be aware of is the feeling of pressure and competition. And it's it's hard to not compare ourselves. But if you seek out other people who want community, it's really easy, because people who want community want to have their own feeling of positivity. So it doesn't matter you don't have to find people who are working on the same kind of writing, who are at the same level of writing, who are writing the same amount as you. The only thing that's important is people's attitude of wanting to show up for community. Don't you think? Because then we all agree we want everybody to succeed.
Yes.
Right? There isn't a feeling that one person's success means less success for other people.
Right. Like the difference between your writing and my writing, like I am really a slow writer. It's very, very difficult for me. And I know you're just like, and you still like, I'm not saying like it's,
I'm flipping cat pancakes all over.
I know.
He does cat pancakes. Come and get him.
And I'm like, I'm putting that pancake on like one drop at a time. One drop. I think it looks good.
Yeah.
Let me put another couple drops on. Anyways.
Yeah.
But getting out there, and I don't mean on the court, because I've been thinking about that too. I don't mean like but like getting out there with other people who are getting out there. You're right. Like that there's a vulnerability and an honesty and a connection that happens when you're like, I'm gonna get out there and we're all gonna get out there together and we're gonna create like a space for people who are like, okay, world, here we go.
Try. Yeah. What you just said about vulnerability brought me to mind of I've been going to this event the last couple of months. It's called the People's Choir, and apparently there's like it's the next big fun thing that the hip kids are doing. Have you heard of these?
No.
And so people get together and they sing along to recorded music that everybody knows, and you can do it on a theme,
Oh
like
my gosh.
artist, or you
Oh
can
my gosh.
Right.
Yes.
but what's really magical about it is the point of it is vulnerability, because you're specifically it's not karaoke and it's not performance, and it's interesting. I think it's the new version of what used to just be folk music, what used to be people showing up with a guitar or, gathering around the piano. But this is the music we all know now, and also nobody has to play an instrument. But it would be kind of a silly activity if we were all just standing there in our own worlds singing really beautifully. Because then you think, well, there's this beautiful art, but nobody is watching it, right? Because we're each doing it.
Yeah.
But that's not what happens. Everybody is trying out things, and you're just going, oh, I didn't quite hit that note, and oh, I always thought those were the words, but it turns out they weren't, and you come in early. And the point is the vulnerability, which makes it so beautiful. So really the point is the community. It's this way of it's an incredibly immediate way of having a shared experience.
Yeah.
And
I love that so much.
It's so fun. You should start one.
I should start one. Yeah, because like we've all been sitting in the car, like singing on our own, like driving along by ourselves, singing to the radio. But as soon as you have another person in the car, it's like there's like what?
Yeah.
And then it's because it's super vulnerable, right?
Exactly.
I love that they've like created a safe space for people to be like, yeah, we're singing together.
Oh, it's so fun. It is so fun. And that's, to me, that's what a great community looks like. People come together with the intention of being vulnerable, because then that's where things grow. That's where we try. The vulnerability is, now I'm open to really trying. And I'm in a space where I know other people want me to succeed. I know I want me to succeed. I have the faith that I can make something better than the pieces I have that might be kind of awkward as they go together. Yeah. And it's stacks of positivity. Yeah. So, with the right place and the people supporting you and then guidance, we get the lyric sheet. It's not like flying blind. You get tools to help you. Yeah. But for me, it's just like stacking on more and more positivity and more likelihood I'm going to try. And to me, it seems like, here's some realism. The more I try, the more I'm likely eventually to get where I want to go.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
It's not pretty.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. I think this group is full of people who are awesomely vulnerable and getting their stuff. Like, I love the people in this group. Like, they are out there. They are like positive and doing it. Like, most of them have already published something or other, and just looking for some community. And I really love this group. I think there's a lot of really great people in here. I've seen
a kind of similar story again and again. I wonder if you've been seeing this, but somebody who identifies as a profession, like, I've been doing this and that, but I just decided it was time to write. I'm noticing a lot of people who are claiming their writing passion, and they may be coming from different professions or different walks of life, but there's this this again and again. I'm hearing this theme in this story of it was my time to write.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it was Denise, and I think you like quoted her at one point, but this like I'm ready to be heard, and like I'm ready to shout. What did she say? It was so cool. It was just so eloquent, and
I don't remember something about my voice, and it's ready to shout. I don't know. I loved it.
Yeah, but ready to be heard, and I'm so appreciative of that. That people are showing up ready to be heard. Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, if anybody wants to give their take on productivity and positivity, we'd really love to hear it. I think it's not as talked about in writing, positivity, but I think it's really important. So yeah, we'd love to hear.
Yeah.
Which is
also, if you have some topics that you would like us to touch on in the future, we can be really, abstract and like big concept things, which we love to do, but we could also be down to the nitty gritty depending on what people need. Like we can get down and be like just practical steps and tricks and tips and things to do to help get your writing mojo. But we like it all. We're like anything. Yeah. It's about being creative and putting your heart out there, and we'll cover every single topic.
But yeah, please let us know what would be of interest. All right. Awesome. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great day, Ella.
You too, Megan.
All right. Take care. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.